Hi everyone, today we are going to discuss this particular question. Here it is a question which asks you, do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? This is what the question is. So you can expect these types of questions very frequently in academic IELTS. Uh, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Do the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? Do the positive outweigh the negatives, or do the negative outweigh the positives? So in academic IELTS writing task 2, it's very common, but it is seen in general task 2 too. So in both the cases, you have to be familiar. This is a very frequent question for academic writing task 2, and it's a rare question for a general task 2. But you can say that it is equally important in both the cases. So when we discuss the matter, we have two sentences there in the question. International tourism has brought about enormous benefits to many places. So it is the benefit type. At the same time, there is a concern about its impact on local inhabitants and environment. So that is the negative side. So we have both the positive addressed and the negative addressed there. So now opinion is asked, do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? So this is what the question is. The opinion is asked to you. Now, if I see the advantages, I can see, when I discuss, I can see the advantages like this. It is a revenue, infrastructural development, popularity of the place, understanding the cultural diversity of international community. So there are numerous advantages when we go ahead with the benefits of international tourism. And when we go ahead with the demerits, you can see something else here. You can say that it's a cultural dilution, your cultural integrity will be lost there. You can see environmental pollution, you can see the lots of lands or natural things. The littering is a problem there. You can see a lot of non-biodegradable waste across in heaps. So there are hike in the crime rates. You can say that there are conflicts between the local people and the international people. And there is smuggling, drug trafficking, and you can say human trafficking too there. When these international tourists come to your place, you be having some problems. The local inhabitants have some problem. The environment is also having some problem. So we are not asked how can we solve the problem. We are just asked this question: do the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? Even though there are some problems, we are not asked to solve the problem. We are not asked to get the solutions for the problem. It's not asked. You are not going to suggest any solution to. Then if you suggest any solution in the conclusion, your task response is going to be wrong. So no solution here. Stick to the topic. The topic is just the question: do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? If I say yes, disadvantages outweigh the advantages, I have to write more disadvantages and less advantages. And if I feel the opposite, if there are more advantages, I'll be writing more advantages paragraphs and one disadvantages paragraph. Anyway, I am going to write both advantages and disadvantages. If my opinion is the first way, disadvantages outweigh the advantages, I'll be writing more disadvantages and I'll be writing less advantages. If in the other way, if advantages are more, I'll be writing more advantages and less disadvantages. But right now here in my thesis, I have said it is difficult to answer whether it has, whether or not it has more disadvantages. So my question, I answered my question, do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? My answer is, it is difficult to answer this particular question because it has advantages, it has disadvantages. And it is difficult for me to decide whether it has more disadvantages or more advantages. So that's what the thesis is. So here I am not going to frame a 3-paragraph essay. I am framing a 2-paragraph essay because I am presenting both the advantages and disadvantages with equal importance. Now let's see what is there in the introduction of this particular essay. In the introduction of this particular essay, we can see 3 sentences. The first sentence is that international tourism brings numerous benefits to many places. It means we are not talking about domestic tourism, we are talking about international tourism. We're not talking about tourism in general, we need to focus on the word international tourism. So the first sentence deals with the positive thing. The second sentence, at the same time, it has some disadvantages which affect the environment and the indigenous population. The question is addressed. The question, you can see the question, the same thing you can see here, but it is presented in a different form. I can see some similarity here, that is at the same time here. You can see at the same time, you can see at the same time here. So I am looking forward for a different vocabulary there right now because it is in the same position and the same types of words. It's not recommended. So I need to change this thing. There is no doubt that international tourism brings numerous benefits to many places. I go with however here. However, it has some disadvantages which affects this. Okay. Now I have another problem here. Another however came here. So what should I do here? I am skipping. I don't need this however here. I start with it is. It is difficult to answer whether or not it has more advantages. So I have not made much change there. So I just change the position of however to another place. Still, the matter is the same. It is difficult to answer whether or not it has more disadvantages than advantages. So the answer is also given there. Now let's move ahead to the first paragraph. Why the person has said that it is difficult to answer whether it has more advantages than disadvantages. He might say it is difficult to answer whether it has more whether it is more advantages than disadvantages. Then he must have think that it both has equal importance. So it has benefits as well as demerits. So the benefits. You just go ahead with the benefits paragraph here, turning to the positive aspects. The first is none other than the enormous revenue it adds to the country's economy. So you have to look at certain cases here, turning to the positive aspect. This is the phrase which I start. So in this paragraph, I'm going to go ahead with the advantages. And the first advantage is the revenue it adds to the country's economy. And this is the main reason many countries spend a huge sum on advertising to welcome international tourists. So we have connected that thing to another close. The main reason why many countries are spending huge sums on advertising to welcome international tourists is because of the revenue it brings to the country. This is on additional information. The reason why many countries are pressing this, the importance of international tourism is that the money. So the first focus is on money. Now, other major benefits. So it is well explained in the first sentence, even though it is, we don't have that much explanation. Explanation is there. Another major benefits, apart from the first major benefits, that is the revenue, other major benefits are trade enhancement and infrastructural developments. We have two things. Number one, it is trade enhancement. Number two, it is infrastructural developments. So apart from the first advantage, that is the enormous revenue, two other advantages are there, that is the trade enhancement and infrastructural developments. So that is explained in the next particular sentence. When more overseas tourists arrive, naturally they require more facilities, and this demands the local governments to introduce new commercial establishments. Number one, hospitals. Number two, hotels. Number three, transportation facilities. These are examples there. I've given examples. What types of commercial development enhancements, what type of infrastructure developments are going to happen? These are the examples there. And the final sentence of the paragraph. This would totally change what? These types of developments would totally change the face of the place and upgrade the standards of living there. So the local people, they be upgrading the standards of living there. The face of the city, the face of the place will be upgraded. It becomes a little bit popular, more popular in the tourist map. So these are all the advantages with examples and explanation. It is presented in the first paragraph. Now, when we look at the second paragraph, amidst of these advantages, so the phrase is started, amidst of these advantages. Yeah, if I say a group of advantages are presented in the first paragraph, if I stand in the middle of these advantages, still I can point out some problem. Many are concerned of the expansion of international tourism because of its potential threats to the environment and local people. If I stand in the middle of the advantages, still I am facing some problems. So that is related to, that are questions related to environment, and other questions related to the local people. The worst concern, number one, there it is the first, here it is the worst. So you can see the difference of the phrases, the vocabulary we have used. The positive we have said, the best, the first, the most important, all these things. But when we go with the negative, we go with the worst. The worst concern is defacing of the natural geographical features of the place. For example, many trees have to be fallen. It has to be. Beautiful hills have to be leveled and valleys have to be reshaped for the infrastructural development. These are examples how the changes occurs there. In order to facilitate the more inflow of the tourists, we need to do these changes there. An increased rate of pollution is another burning environment. These are all the environmental concerns. One is the defacing of this thing. You have to alter the place. The face of the place. Altering the face of the place is number one environmental concern. The geography is lost. The natural serenity is lost there. The second thing is pollution. And we don't need that much explanation for what happens with the pollution there. Now, the third thing, even though many local inhabitants are employed because of international tourism, even though there are many jobs, so I have said the benefits indirectly. The benefits, one more benefit I have told in this paragraph, international tourism will bring a lot of job opportunities. I have not mentioned in the previous paragraph, but here also indirectly I mentioned this is a benefit of international tourism. It brings a lot of job opportunities to the local people. Even if I missed to point out in the previous paragraph, this particular thing, it is framed in the negative paragraph. Even though we have a lot of job opportunities, it means it brings a lot of job opportunities. It can be added as an advantage there. Even though it brings a lot of employment to the local inhabitants, many have lost their cultural identity. They have lost their own identity there. And a sizable proportion of the local inhabitants, they are into the illegal businesses. Like drug trafficking, alcoholism, all these things they are into. So we do have negative things too, equally. So if I have said there are a lot of advantages, like advantage number one is the revenue. Advantage number two is the trade enhancement, infrastructure developments. Number three, advantage number three is employment opportunity. So I have four advantages mentioned in this essay for the international tourism. And you can see the position number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've said 4 advantages there. And what about the disadvantages? The worst is defacing. Number 1, that is defacing. Number 2, it is pollution here. Number 2. Number 3, we have loss of cultural identity. That is 3. Number 4, it's illegal businesses. So we have 4 advantages and 4 disadvantages. But the placement of these things, it differs. It is different. So 3 advantages are presented in the first paragraph and 1 advantage is in the second paragraph. All the 4 disadvantages are presented in the second paragraph. So placement is different, but we have said 4 there, 4 there, 4 here. Advantages are also 4, disadvantages are also 4. And I have made it equal there. So when we go ahead with the conclusion, I can say, to conclude, even after making a critical assessment on the matter, it is hard to decide whether international tourism brings more advantages or disadvantages. Even after making a critical assessment, we have made a critical assessment here on the matter. Still, it is hard to decide whether the international tourism brings more advantages or more disadvantages. So we have come to the end of this particular explanation. I hope you have understood the 4 criteria of this thing. Is the task response. Exactly what they are asking is whether there is more advantages or more disadvantages. That is the question I have answered here in the thesis. Task response is very clear with the thesis. And this thesis is explained in the paragraph number 1 and 2. And I have restated the thesis in the conclusion. So the same thing I have said, what I said in the thesis, it is restated there in the conclusion. So we have the yes, we have the essay done here. Thank you. I hope everyone has understood this thing.